Hi, this is Cliff Nelson from Redwood Tutoring. I want to do part 2 of factoring x squared plus bx plus c. Well, all of the problems that we had in part 1 involved x, but there's nothing special about x. I could have something like this: t squared minus t minus 30. I want to factor that, having the variable t rather than the variable x. Well, I know that I'm supposed to grab this number, the negative 30, and that's what goes on top. Now, what about the coefficient to this? Here, this is the same as negative 1 times t. And so the negative 1 is what's going down here. So remember, what's going on here is that since they multiply to a negative number, the two numbers that I'm looking for have to have opposite signs. One of them being negative and one of them being positive. Looks like negative 6 and a positive 5 will do the trick. Negative 6 times 5 is negative 30. Negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1. So that means that this splits up into t minus 6 times t plus 5. Again, that could be written in either order. You could put the t plus 5 first and the t minus 6 last. Either way is fine. I recommend that you guys, at least in your head, FOIL it out just to make sure that it works. T times t is t squared, and then 5t minus 6t gives me the negative 1t, and then here I have, for my last term, negative 30. Looks like it works out. Now, some students get a bit confused when it comes to problems like number 2 that I'm going to do. Here's how the problem goes. It says, I'm looking to factor x squared minus 15xy plus 56y squared. So notice how I have descending powers of x and ascending powers of y. Now, you guys would know how to do that without the y's. Well, let's pretend for a minute that I can't see the y's. And I'm just going to do it as if it was x squared minus 15x plus 56. Well, in that case, what I would do is I would just say, this number is what goes on the top. This number, the negative 15, is what goes on the bottom. Now, because the two numbers multiply to a positive, they have to have the same sign. And because they add to a negative, that sign must be negative. They both must be negative numbers. Looks like negative 7 and negative 8 will do the trick. Negative 7 times negative 8 is positive 56. Negative 7 plus negative 8 is negative 15. So, if there were no y's involved, we would break it down like this: x minus 7, x minus 8. Well, as it turns out, we can account for the y's just by tacking them on at the end. Let's just make sure that this works. X times x is x squared. X times negative 8y is negative 8xy. The inner terms give me minus 7xy. And the last gives me plus 56y squared. Alright, that looks like it's going to match up with what I have. Looks like this is the correct factorization. So the bottom line is, when you see something like this, ignore the y's until you get your factorization, and then just tack them on at the end, FOIL to make sure that it works out. 2 more problems. Let's say that the problem was this. I want to factor 3x to the 4th plus 12x cubed minus 15x squared. Well, what's going on here is, looks like it doesn't exactly fit that form that we wanted. But actually, all of these terms have something in common. First of all, they all have a 3 in common, because 12 is just 3 times 4, and negative 15 is just 3 times negative 5. And they also have an x squared in common. I'm going to factor that out first. It's important to always look for the greatest common factor, see if you could factor that out first, then that's going to leave us with something simpler to deal with. So 3x squared, factoring that out, well, what's left is just x squared, and then plus 4x and minus 5. Right on. So now this is in the form that I want. I'm just going to focus on this part. I put the negative 5 from here up here. I put the 4 down here. I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 5 and add to negative 4. Well, those two numbers have to have opposite signs. Looks like it's going to be negative 1 and a positive 5 will do the trick. Negative 1 times 5 is negative 5. Negative 1 plus 5 is negative 4. Go ahead and keep the 3x squared, and then let's just split this up as x minus 1 times x plus 5. Again, that could be written in either order. All right, one more problem. One more problem that's a bit of a curveball. Let's say that I wanted to factor an expression that looked like this. X squared plus 13x plus 7. X squared plus 13x plus 7. Well, already this fits the form, so what I want to do is look for two numbers that multiply to 7 and add to 13. Two numbers that multiply to 7 and add to 13. Well, unfortunately, there are no integers that do the trick. If I do 7 and 1, that's not going to add to 13. If I do negative 7, negative 1, that's not going to add to 13. Nothing that I try is going to work. These polynomials are not factorable. We call them prime polynomials. So my answer here would be prime. This doesn't break down any further. Thank you, and please join me for another factoring talk next time. Have a great day.